Hey guys, so here I'm going to go through a new series of videos where I'm going to touch on different things that tend to mess us up. And what this is going to be is a list of items and technologies and things in our lives that are common to many of us. But because of the way that we have to interact with them, they can negatively impact our mobility, the tone throughout our body, and as a result, it can have a negative impact on our comfort outside of the use of them and around the use of them. So what exactly is going on here? What do I mean, things that mess you up? Well, we want to think about, say, the treadmill effect. And say you're walking on a treadmill, and I'm sure many of you have had that experience. If you haven't, well, it's a trip, get on one. So when you're walking on a treadmill, you have to figure out how to stay upright and not fall on your face. The treadmill is not a normal walking experience. And because you have to adjust your gait while on it, everyone knows the experience of what it's like to get off the treadmill and walk for a period of time, whether it's 20 feet or whether it's 200. Things are a little weird for a short period of time after being on a treadmill. And that's because as human beings, we're extremely adaptable. We tend to adapt the way in which we move and interact with our environment just based on the demands that we're taking on in the moment, and especially for a prolonged period. And because of that, what we tend to habitually do can have a big impact. We're constantly adapting, we're constantly attuning to the demands that we're taking on and to our environment. So what we habitually do has a big impact on the rest of our lives, on the other parts of our lives. And so this is going to be a list of items that are commonplace in many of our lives that unfortunately, because of the way in which we have to interact with them, will have a negative impact on our lives. And what I'm going to recommend is for you to either limit or be aware of how much time you spend interacting with these items, or to avoid them altogether just because of the nature of them. And the first item that we're going to go into would be flip-flops. All right, so what's the big problem with flip-flops? Well, the thing is that in order to keep a flip-flop on, you gotta shuffle walk. You see, normal human gait is heel-toe. Heel lands, you roll over the toe. And when you've got a shoe that needs to stay attached to your body, but it doesn't have a strap to the heel, if you slap that heel down onto the ground, it's gonna loosen it off of your foot. And if you allow your foot to swing forward as it normally would in typical, ideal, adult human gait, well, you're gonna launch this thing across the room, across the floor. So in order to avoid that, very quickly, any of us would learn to shuffle our feet when wearing flip-flops, when wearing a sandal that has no back to it. Now, this works to some folks' advantage because they already shuffle walk, and so they love these things. These folks also tend to be kind of tight, so they love these things doubly because they don't have to bend over to put them on. They can just slip them on and slip them off. But ultimately, that works against them. It would work against any of us. So the general rule for a flip-flop would be flip-flops are for the beach and the barbecue. You're not really going anywhere with them on. You need something that's easy to get on, get off, maybe just sort of like protect the bottom of your feet. Perhaps we could also add in when you're in like a public shower sort of situation where you want to maybe create a barrier between the ground, the floor that may have some unwanted bacteria. That would be another situation that, yeah, go for the flip-flop. That's simple, that's easy. But in general, if you're going to be walking for any period of time, you're going to want a shoe that's got a strap to the back of the heel that allows you to walk heel-toe, to be able to land on your heel and not loosen the shoe, to be able to partner with it, not have to claw, grip your toes. While you're walking. And to be able to just swing your foot naturally forward for the next step without fear of this thing shooting across the room. So Limit the amount of time that you have in flip-flops, and know that if you spend any prolonged length of time in them, then you're gonna have tight hip flexors because you have to nutcracker walk. You're gonna have weirdly tight necks because you can't relax into the ground, and a whole host of other things throughout your body simply because you gotta waddle and shuffle in order to keep this flip-flop on.